Drop it. Welcome back, everyone, to another Power Panel with Mark Thompson, Francesca Fiorentini, and myself. And I'm gonna use up the last of my voice for this show. And then we've got a 3-day weekend, which is gonna be really awesome. But it's been a week in the news, and I'm very glad that both of you are here with me to go through the stories.
Oh, a week of your voice?
That's been the biggest news. There's been other news
You're
too,
playing hurt, and I appreciate that. I think it's a good example to us younger kids that a guy like you plays hurt.
He's playing dirty. I think he's just playing dirty.
Obviously. I will say that coming to the show without a full voice is even more intimidating when you're on a panel with a guy who is known across the world for his voice.
Thank you. Thanks.
Francesca's voice. Okay, so we've got awesome stories that we're gonna get to. Did you know that Bernie Sanders is a rat? Okay, he's a dirty fighter is what he is, and we're gonna break down the attacks against him recently. Really, really sad, scary story involving Andrew Yang's wife, Evelyn. So we're gonna be breaking down the details on that too. And then I'm gonna keep it real, partially because Mark is on the panel. We've got a story about animal cruelty in agriculture, and it's pretty devastating. Okay, so we're gonna give you a bunch of.
I wore my animal print shirt.
You did actually.
Like
Are there pigs on
solidarity
there?
with all the koalas and pigs.
It's been a rough time
I'm a
for
vegetarian.
animals.
Okay, don't look at me.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, but before we get into all of those stories, and there is also gonna obviously be an awesome second hour after that, I did wanna give you just a couple of programming notes to lead off. First, on MLK Day, we are going to be dark, our studio. We're not gonna have a live show on Monday, January 20th. We will have clips available on YouTube. And you can sign up at tyt.com/join, obviously, to become a member, see those clips and everything. But we're not going to have a regularly scheduled live video because we're gonna be observing the holiday. We also will be having, coming up on Friday, January 24th, just to show to our members how much we appreciate them, we're gonna have a members only main show during our regularly scheduled hours. It's something we do pretty rarely, but we wanna give something a little bit special to our members. And so we're gonna be doing that. You keep us independent, honest, and objective, and we wanna give something back to you.
When is that?
That's gonna be on Friday, January 24th.
Kind of a cool idea, okay.
It is, and you can become a member today at tyt.com/join. So that should be a lot of fun. With that said, lots of stories to get to, so why don't we jump into it? Donald Trump has finally assembled his legal team, the best and brightest minds from around the country who will be defending him during this Senate trial. And it's a doozy. So we've got Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz, former Independent Counsel lawyers Ken Starr and Robert Ray. They're going to be joining his team, which also includes Jay Sekulow, Pat Cipollone, and Pam Bondi as well. It's just, I mean, the term murderer's row is thrown around, but in terms of the sorts of people you could get to represent you in a high profile case, that is just, that is something. And so what's interesting is we're gonna give our commentary and everything, and we're gonna hear from some members of his team. But I saw that Jonathan Swan at Axios, some White House officials had reached out to him saying that they hoped Trump wouldn't pick Dershowitz. They said it's an unforced error given that the team was already strong, and perhaps more importantly because of the close publicly documented ties between him and Jeffrey Epstein, which could become a distraction. And so that makes two members of his defense team who also helped Jeffrey Epstein get a sort of easygoing, sweetheart sort of deal and evade accountability for the horrific crimes that he's committed. That's the team that he has.
He got a sweetheart deal?
A little bit.
I mean, I think in the end.
Not in the end so much. No.
Although, is it ever really over with Epstein? I'm just gonna talk like this whenever I talk about Epstein.
I feel like I'm in an episode of Russian Doll. But no, it ended poorly, but he had a good run.
He did have
he skated on the first. He skated for the first part, is what you're talking about. That sweetheart deal. His defense team, they've got a lot of stink on them. The Epstein stink is on Dershowitz, and we overlook Ken Starr, I think, too quickly when we talk about stink involving sexual harassment and sexual misconduct. at Baylor, he was forced to resign, as you are aware, because he covered up and didn't handle the serious charges of sexual misconduct on the campus of Baylor by athletes in any kind of serious way. Ken Starr is a reprehensible, awful guy, and that's just one more way he's awful. But so that whole sexual misconduct stink, though, that's Dershowitz. I think it's on Starr as well.
But I mean, aren't you kind of like, you know, Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, like they're not on the other side of this. This is like the wrong dream team. This is like the sexual assaulters dream team. Don't we need like the corrupt, you know, I don't know, like whatever, foreign bribery dream team. You need someone who's more in like the mafia angle rather than the like handsy angle. I don't know who that would be. But
I don't know.
I just feel like maybe Kevin Spacey in character as his character from Time to Kill could just like join in on this, because that'd be great, you know?
Well, and the other thing I just was going to say is I think that a lot of these decisions that are made as to who's going to be on Trump's team across the board, I mean, this team or other, they're decided upon based on who shows up well on television, who said the right thing on Fox News. These are the things that Trump cares about checking off, and I think these guys check those boxes.
Yeah, and so there is some indication that the TV presence is a part of it. We're going to get to that. But also the just fawning deference to Donald Trump. You just do that for a few months on Fox News and you eventually get hired. It has never failed. Now it's a mixed picture for some of these individuals, as we're gonna go through historically, but we do have some examples of that sort of deference. So why don't we go first to Ken Starr. Here's a little mashup of him in advance of impeachment talking about Donald Trump and what he thinks about impeachment.
What do you make of all this?
It is a lesson, and a nasty lesson, in how not to do impeachment. The president may have covered himself by saying no quid pro quo, the record is muddled. There is no bipartisan support of this impeachment inquiry. So that's a very important background fact. 31 Democrats during Clinton supported the impeachment inquiry and not a single Republican did. And that tells you this is just the great partisan divide that is dividing the nation further. And that's a great, I'm not gonna say it's a tragedy, but it's a darn shame. What we have not seen here is the suggestion that, or at least we have not seen proof that a crime has been committed, and that seems to me to be a very relevant fact. What we're seeing ultimately here, which I think is so unfortunate for the country, is impeachment simply being used as a political weapon of destruction. It was inadequate to indict, so to speak, and I believe it's woefully inadequate to convict. There is no question that this president hated the idea of foreign aid to corrupt entities.
Yeah. There's some question of that though. So look, Ken Starr, he feels no sort of internal requirement to be honest in any way. It makes him a perfect fit for this legal team. And he's been on television for literally decades. That is how Donald Trump chooses people. It's the whole central casting thing. And look, I think that Ken Starr, in terms of being like a TV presence, I think he comes across as a pretty weak, sort of slow-speaking, weak force, but he's a name that Donald Trump has been familiar with for a very long time, and he probably likes the idea that Ken Starr is gonna defend him.
And yet, what's so great about Ken Starr being on Trump's defense is that no matter whatever history shows about this time in American history, Trump will not ever be the president who was impeached over a blowjob. He's not gonna be that guy. And that's like, it's gotta suck that he was impeached. He must be so mad, but it's not over a blowjob. And he's like, it could have been, but it's not. I'm gonna get Ken Starr, because it wasn't there didn't I get oral sex at some point? You didn't, buddy, you didn't. and I love that.
Well, Ken Starr is a jihadist. You know, he went after Clinton on just that charge, right? That he was lying about this dalliance or whatever you want to call it in the White House, and we know what you want to call it, and I think you're right. I mean, I think it's
a dalliance.
Listen, I always call it dalliance.
Right?
Yeah. Quid pro dalliance.
But I think so. Trump looks at this and goes, hey, that guy went on the jihad against Clinton, and I want him to now represent me as they come after me. I think the arithmetic's that simple. As I said before, though, I think the arithmetic is really even simpler than that, which is guy on TV a lot. He was involved in another impeachment. He's been on Fox News a lot. He'll continue to go on Fox News, as you saw. I mean, I think he's been an analyst on Fox News for some time now.
Yeah.
And so that, again, is somebody that Trump wants on his team.
Because again, this is not about proving his innocence, or this is not about mounting any kind of defense based on any kind of fact, right? We've seen how Republicans have completely thrown that to the wind. This is about getting all of the blowhards in the same room so that it can just sear into the minds of Fox News viewers, so that we are, again, we all know we're post-fact, and so that they will mob the streets if he is in fact impeached, which he's not, or he's been impeached, but like removed. He's not going to be removed, but maybe, you know, in rally after rally. And I think we're only, and I've said this before, and we have seen it, going to see things get more violent, more hostile, more divided.
Yeah. Well, you know, all eyes are on Virginia, and we're going to have that in the second hour.
He's not wrong. I mean, Trump is not wrong when he looks to the messaging. That's what's scary. You know, he gets this team around him, even Dershowitz. Again, these guys who are damaged goods if you actually look at the facts.
Right.
But they speak well and they speak forcefully on television and to that viewership that you're talking about. And I think you're exactly right. That is the only messaging he cares about. So to the extent that that's important, and it is, it's really the front and center aspect of this entire thing. He's made choices that will serve that. This is not a trial. They call it a trial, but it's not. It's a political process. And so in that spirit, he's made these choices for those reasons.
Well, and it's not a trial in the traditional sense. It's also not a trial in the sense that there is going to be a serious good faith effort to get to the truth. Right. So here's the thing, let's say hypothetically, there was the TV Fox News crowd of lawyers you could get, or there's these guys could actually protect me lawyers. Right. First of all, he's gonna have trouble getting a lot of those people to work for him because they don't want to anymore. But more importantly, he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't need a serious qualified legal team because his serious qualified legal team are the 53 Republican senators that we've got.
Thank you.
They are not in any way gonna be serious or honest about this entire thing. All of them lied under oath when they took the oath at the beginning of this thing that they were gonna seriously consider the evidence. They're not interested in that at all.
You don't have to persuade this jury. You're preaching to the converted, exactly.
Do you think that's still the case in light of all the Lev Parnas stuff?
I think it shouldn't be, but I have not seen anything from any Republican senators that shows, or from Fox News, that even up to the point of a U.S. ambassador being like stalked, spied on, and potentially life being threatened. None of them have expressed like this has gone too far vibe. Sure. I have not seen that.
No, and especially since they're going to vote against actually entering in real evidence or bringing in witnesses.
Yeah.
All the new stuff that's come to light that really should matter, that should weigh on this case, is pretty much going to be overridden.
Yeah. Now, just really fast, because I implied that there was a little bit of ambiguity to the 100% deference we saw, for instance, from Ken Starr in that mashup. So they have previously been willing to be critical of each other, and that I mean Ken Starr to Donald Trump, but also Donald Trump to Ken Starr. Take a look at this video from back in the Clinton years.
I think Ken Starr is a lunatic. I really think that Ken Starr is a disaster. I hated the way the president handled it. It was a long and terrible process. I really think that Ken Starr was terrible.
It doesn't matter though, it doesn't matter. Because if you follow Donald Trump, if you like Donald Trump, you don't want or need any consistency. It's just, what's the latest thing? Is this person a traitor? Is this person awesome? Is this person the best? Is this person the worst? And you update it every day, and you flush your memory of everything else. He was a lunatic before, but now, oh, he's the best guy. Central casting, come on.
Footnote on those involved in this, and what we're talking about, the fact that this is not really a trial per se. I mean, this is about power. And so when you look at it that way, you see that's why they're not going to vote for removal of this president. It's about maintaining power. So as John said, unless they were to show you that there was an assassination plan on that ambassador, I just don't see any way they want to give up power, regardless of the evidence.
Yeah.
But that's so, I mean, there essentially might have been, right? Like the text messages uncovered from this guy, was it Robert Hyde or something? Who's saying, I'm following her, I know where she is. Like, again, we have to sort of bring it back to shoe on the other foot. What would Republicans do with this information if there was a Democratic operative working who was spying on an ambassador? Like, insanity, there's no way that would hold.
Yeah, I mean, look, even with all this evidence, it doesn't break through at all, even though I bet there are Republicans who seriously believe right now that not only would Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton have done something to this ambassador, but there are probably some who think that they did kill this ambassador.
Sure.
And there are people spreading rumors that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died like a year ago, and they're just pretending she's still alive so they don't have to give up the seat.
Yeah.
That's the world we
She's on
exist in.
vibranium from Wakanda, dude.
Exactly. But anyway, really fast, I want to run through one update to this story because early this morning, there was the announcement that Alan Dershowitz would be a part of this. Now, he's ridiculous in his own way. I mean, he was tied in with Epstein. During that time, there were some appearances of his on Fox News where he was talking about his sex life that were just like shocking in all the wrong ways.
Perfectly fine. Do we have that?
No. People are eating dinner, some of them. But anyway.
I'll send you links if you want to see it.
Yeah, so if the fear is that that would be a distraction to add him to the legal team, the news coming out, the reaction to it proved that that was the case, that it was a distraction. And so I can't say for sure, but there was an update to this story that I think was generated by the response to it. So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. He said to, I believe this was on a podcast. He says, I think it overstates it to say I'm a member of the Trump team. I was asked to present the constitutional argument that I would have presented had Hillary Clinton been elected and had she been impeached. I will be there for 1 hour, basically, presenting my argument, but I'm not a full-fledged member of the defense team in any realistic sense of that term.
I didn't attend any swearing-in ceremonies, is what I guess Alan Dershowitz is saying.
I didn't actually get a massage. It was more of just a light pushing around, and like, I don't even like massages. I have a perfect sex life. All right.
And it's, well, and he's fine.
Dershowitz has been, I mean, he's no longer, but up until I think about a year ago when the Epstein stuff was really blowing up, he was a CNN commentator who was consistently sort of I'm a Democrat and I'm against impeachment. As if that was some admirable road he was hoeing. I don't.
Well, he's a provocateur, Dershowitz, and he is someone who has taken on tough cases, and he is an expert in the Constitution. All these things sort of build his cred, and then he somehow got swallowed up in Team Trump, and then you just see him flogging for Trump time and time again. He becomes a fixture on Fox News Channel, which is then puts him really on Team Trump, and then what happens.
There is one other element of this I want to just briefly cover, because obviously, like, Ken Starr, that's the big name. Alan Dershowitz, obviously big name when all this news comes out. But the fact that Pam Bondi is also involved in his legal defense, that is interesting. And it's partially because of a story from a few years back that didn't get a lot of attention, but I think it's worth mentioning that, let's see, 3 days after a spokesman for Bondi told the Orlando Sentinel that her office was indeed considering joining the Trump U investigation. So an investigation of Trump University back before he was president. A $25,000 check was cut by Trump's foundation and sent to a committee associated with Bondi's campaign. Now, she eventually sent the money back, and understand that check was from the Trump Foundation, the charitable organization. So she was considering possibly investigating his outfit, and then they gave her $25,000, and once it blew up, she gave the money back.
From his other fake outlet, right?
From his other fake outlet.
Because the foundation is no longer a foundation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, the whole thing is so dirty, and I get it. This is a story not a lot of people knew about. You might not even know exactly what she looks like. So we do have a picture of her, so you can see this. That's her pictured with Lev Parnas. What?
The Hamburglar strikes again.
Okay, that's funny, guys. Let's go to a different photo of her in a different situation. She was with Lev Parnas. Is there anyone in America he hasn't grinned in a selfie with?
Start the rumors now.
Exactly. Anyway, that's Trump's legal defense team. Like something Mos Eisley something Den. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna take our first break. We come back. Bernie Sanders, really exciting new survey results. National, where's he moving? How's he doing? But also some new attacks from a former Vermont politician. We're gonna go over that after this.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Young Turks with Mark and Francesca and myself. Before we jump back into the stories, I did want to read some of the members' comments. Rob sent in a comment saying, by the way, congrats to Francesca for her show on MSNBC. Hope adding progressive voices to MSM becomes a trend.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And if there was going to be someone on the Vanguard, it should be someone like you.
Well, I'm Vanguard now?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I made
Cutting
it.
edge, baby.
I made it.
Nice
I made
job,
it.
Let's
kid.
see, we got the liberal mom who sent in a comment saying, Mark and Franny is my absolute favorite, yay power panel.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a third person on the, anyway. Hey,
Where'd he go?
no, okay. Let's see. Rebel Fish said, hey, my rebellious family, good as always to be here with you. By the way, poor, still sick John, I want you to know that I just sent you 10 bucks to make you feel better about the paltry 50 cents you got yesterday. Throwback to yesterday's show.
I'm not feeling so great either if you've got money to throw around.
You have to really hack something up if you want 10
You
bucks.
got 50 cents?
It was a super chat, yeah. Not for me specifically, obviously.
Did they get phlegm for it?
I mean, it might dry out on the
If you
way,
want
but they'll
phlegm,
get something.
Oh my
join
God.
TYT.
I'm not feeling as nervous about showing the disgusting video now that this has been the intro.
Do you do this on MSNBC? I'm
Yes.
asking.
I hope to. I hope to really, bring phlegm to the mainstream. It's important.
And I almost don't want to read this TYT Live now, but it says, I love when Frenafio is on TYT. We've missed you.
Oh.
You didn't want to read that?
Well, you've just been
'cause the-
talking a lot about my phlegm.
I got it.
Anyway, with that, we do have a lot of other topics to get to, so why don't we jump back into the news? We are just weeks out from the Iowa caucus. We're about to actually have a primary here, and things are developing fast. You've probably noticed over the past few days, not only has Bernie Sanders gotten a number of high-profile endorsements in some of the early states, he's been doing very well in the early state polls as well. And now a new Reuters Ipsos poll shows him moving into first place nationally within the margin of error, to be fair. So according to this new poll, 20% of registered Democrats and independents said they would back Sanders. Another 19% supported Biden, 12% for Elizabeth Warren, 9% for Michael Bloomberg, and 6% for Pete Buttigieg. Now, this good polling for Bernie Sanders is not without its negative, which we're gonna turn to in just a moment. But if you're going to start doing even better in the national polls, right on the eve of the first primaries and caucus is probably a pretty good time for that to happen.
Just want to talk about Buttigieg trailing Bloomberg. That's gotta hurt, dude.
Yeah.
All the wine in the world from all the caves of all the wine caves. That's not gonna help you with that. Oh, that sucks.
I know, to see him come in.
But also like stand for something, dude. Maybe that'll help you.
That's good advice.
Just a little me to you.
Yeah, by the way, just on that, and then to the Sanders thing, because it's also about it. I mean, it shows you that fundraising alone won't get it done. It shows you that money alone won't get it done. I mean, but obviously Bernie's done an incredible job of fundraising, through individual donors. But Francesca's point about, you have these wine cellar meetings and you have these big, sort of big money donors, and that doesn't necessarily guarantee you much.
It doesn't. Now he's spent millions in Iowa, and over the past 2 months, Pete Buttigieg, I'm saying, he did move up in the polls and was doing very well. And he's still in Iowa. He is doing well. He raised a lot of money, especially considering literally no one knew who he was a year ago. But that Mike Bloomberg thing, the most amazing number, and I just have to say this, Mike Bloomberg has now spent $250 million in this race.
And look at how little look at how little benefit he's gaining.
But
I mean, he is at
trying
9%.
to stop climate change, guys. He's got to spend instead of listen. He could cut out the middleman and just spend all that money on stopping climate change, but instead of that, he's got to be president first. Then he can eventually stop climate change in 20 years. I mean, like follow along, okay? It's a billionaire's logic here.
He needs to factor in the emissions caused by burning $250 million. That is just crazy. But anyway, at first is Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
And like I said, he's also gotten some big endorsements. On Thursday, the Clark County Black Caucus in Nevada officially endorsed him. You have Mark Pocan, Democrat from Wisconsin, co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, also issued an endorsement. There's been a few others as well, Make the Road Action, and a few other groups too. But he is also now, I think, because of so much good news over the past couple of weeks, there is this pushback from the people who are increasingly getting nervous about his chances. For a year, it was easy to be like, oh, whatever, Biden will put him away or someone else will take him out. But that's harder to imagine now when we're right about to hit Iowa. So we have an example of some of these attacks, and they're coming in ridiculous form. In an interview with Politico, Peter Shumlin, who has endorsed Joe Biden for president in 2020 and served as Vermont's governor from 2011 to 2017, while Sanders represented the state in the Senate, warned that Sanders, an independent and a self-described democratic socialist, ultimately did not feel loyalty to Democrats. He said, quote, "What I've seen in Bernie's politics is he and his team feel they're holier than the rest. In the end, they will play dirty, because they think that they pass a purity test that Republicans and most Democrats won't pass." So when you think of Bernie Sanders, dirty politics, underhanded. Those are not things.
And dirty at the same time. Dirty, but it's a purist test. Like, what is this the purism is around not accepting corporate donations.
I mean, he can pass a purity test that others can't pass. I mean, first of all, let me just say that. I mean, he is passing a purity test when it comes to fundraising that no one was passing prior to Bernie Sanders really entering the race and making it something that people realized, oh, this is a goal that we can actually achieve.
Yeah.
I don't think, this is what you're gonna see though. You're gonna see him painted as a socialist, you're gonna see him painted as a communist, you're gonna see moneyed interests, Wall Street and corporate big oil, fossil fuel businesses and interests.
Private healthcare industry.
Yeah, healthcare. Thank you. Very important. The insurance, health insurance industry. They are going to go after him, and it's really going to be rough. I mean, I think what you're seeing is sort of everything happening in plain sight. The other stuff could happen in sort of the way that we saw sort of the Trump attack ads run on Facebook and in other forums that really could have a damaging effect on Bernie over time.
And that's why this week, after everything that the progressive movement has been through in terms of the Warren camp instigated rift between Bernie and Warren, I think was so hard because for me, I felt like not only were they, in my book, baseless and unsubstantiated claims about things that he had said, but that they also echoed a narrative from 2016 around the Sanders camp and Bernie Sanders specifically being divisive and not getting on board with the Clinton campaign. And it's like, was he not on board with Clinton because he was bringing up issues on which they differed? Was he not on board? Was he not loyal to Clinton because he was bringing up fracking or he was bringing up foreign policy and her vote for the Iraq war? Like, what are we actually talking about? This is the candidate who on stage in front of the entire world said, "I'm tired of hearing about your damn emails."
Yeah.
He deliberately did not attack her on anything that had to do with her personality or you know, the email thing or her gender. When the
None
media,
of the cheap stuff.
None of the cheap stuff. When the media, when the right wing, when everyone was doing that. In fact, Sanders was an ally on that. So again, I think the most hurtful thing about this last week and the most hurtful thing about the like, oh, his ego. My man's slogan is not me, us.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who likes Senator Sanders, I kind of want him to make it a little bit more about him, you know? But actually his campaign does everything to not do that. So I'm not sure where the ego and the divisiveness, I'm not sure where all that's coming from.
Yeah, and in the same way that you say, I kind of wish he made it a little bit more about me. Like when I say he's the least dirty politician that's ever run for the presidency, I kind of wish he was like 4% dirtier.
Right.
Not like unfairly dirty, not say anything dishonest or anything, but he goes so out of his way to not attack people in an unfair fashion that he doesn't really attack people. In 2 runs for the presidency, he generally just makes it about himself, what he wants to accomplish, and his platform.
Right.
And that's why these attacks are so sick, because it's not just that they're attacking him, it's that they are inverting reality to do so. There's gonna be a little bit more of that right here. So a bit more from Peter Shumlin. What you're seeing now is, in the end, even if he considers you a friend like Elizabeth Warren, Bernie will come first. That's the pattern we've seen over the years in Vermont, and that's what we're seeing now nationally. How much did you drink over the past week to think that this is an example of Bernie coming first?
Well,
Bernie
you know,
wanted none of any of that.
Listen, he's leading in the polls, and when Bernie Sanders is leading the polls, it means he wants to be first, and he's putting himself first. Other people are putting himself, ergo he's putting himself above. It works out. It works out.
And by the way, you know, whenever there's an article like this, and there are many of them, John Kerry's done stuff like this, there's always gonna be these, I'm so concerned about Bernie and what he's doing articles. They always have to have a line like this. We should be weakening Donald Trump, not each other. I'm concerned that we're seeing a replay of the kind of dynamics that didn't allow Hillary to win. You just did an interview, the entirety of which was attacking and tearing down Bernie Sanders. And you're like, and after all, can we focus on Donald Trump? We wouldn't want a replay of 2016, in which virtually everyone in the media and the political establishment spent the entire time attacking Bernie Sanders and his supporters relentlessly day after day after day. Yeah, we are seeing a replay of that.
I think we're seeing a replay and we're gonna see it even worse. And in fact, I feel like if anything in 2016, there was more ignoring of the Sanders campaign than there was attacking him over and over again. What there was complete inflation of the Trump camp and an inflation of Clinton, the scandal around Clinton's emails that absolutely all, every media outlet participated in. Here's the thing about 2020. I mean, like it or not, Sanders is actually the most electable candidate in this race. Why? John just said it. The entire political establishment failed us in 2016. The Democratic political establishment failed us. They put up a candidate who was weak. They insisted on this weaker candidate who did not campaign in the states that we knew that she needed to campaign in. So what do you want us to do in 2020? Go back to that same establishment? Trust us because we got it? You didn't got it, right? And so now it's actually time to have someone who has a vision that is in fact that diametrically opposed to Donald Trump and yet speaking to the same issues that Trump speaks to, which is around failed trade agreements and free trade policies, which is around actually healthcare. The guy won saying, I'm gonna replace Obamacare with something better. Bernie Sanders is also gonna replace Obamacare, but he actually means it. He's not a grifter, right? So this obsession with civility that the Democrats have, the obsession with bipartisanship, and an obsession with working with Republicans who have no interest in working with them at all, as we've seen. It's like, I'm sorry, who's the candidate you want to put up again? Biden and Warren, which it kind of looks like she might not be denying that could be in the cards for her. Do we want to lose again? I mean, that's the thing. He's the most electable. People know it. He's got the record and he's got the base. He's got the movement behind him. You can ignore all of that and just call him a democratic socialist. And of course, as Mark pointed out, the lobbying interests and the moneyed interests will absolutely do that. But if you want to beat Trump, if you want to win, I think this is your guy.
Well said. Well, there's a lot there, and I sign on to all of it. I mean, I think it's exactly right. The other thing I would just say in relation to the attacks is, again, they're going to come in a lot of different ways, especially if Sanders maintains these leads. I mean, you're going to see just what we've seen there. He's not a mainstream Democrat. Exactly why so much of the Democratic Party, which reflects mainstream interests, they're all going to come after him. They're going to come after him in op-eds. They're going to come after him in ads. They're going to come after him with money. It's going to get dirty, and it's not going to be dirtiness from the Sanders side. No, and if he goes 3 out of 4 in the first 4 states, that's going to generate momentum, but it's not the only momentum that's going to be him electorally. It is going to be way more op-eds, way more media appearances. Just wait to see what happens after he wins Iowa and New Hampshire. Okay, with that, we're going to switch things up. Very different sort of story, but an important one. The wife of presidential candidate Andrew Yang is now coming forward with a scary, disgusting story of betrayal in the medical field against her. This is EVELYN Yang, and she revealed Thursday to CNN that while pregnant with her first child in 2012, she was sexually assaulted by her gynecologist at Columbia University. Now we have some sections of her interview. We want her to describe it in her own words, so here is some of what she revealed.
Started with inappropriate questions around how intimate I was with my husband, sexual activity. The examinations became longer, more frequent, and I learned that they were unnecessary most of the time. Most women don't know what you're supposed to get when you're pregnant. I didn't know that you're not supposed to get an exam every time.
Yang says the worst assault happened when she was 7 months pregnant.
I was in the exam room and I was dressed and ready to go. And then at the last minute, he kind of made him like an excuse. He said something about, I think you might need a C-section. And he proceeded to grab me over to him and undress me and examine me internally, ungloved. And at first, I was a little bit like, what's going on here?
And there was no one else in the room?
No. In fact, when I think back to most of our exams, I don't think there was somebody in the room. Yeah.
You thought to yourself, this isn't just inappropriate banter. This is much different.
Oh, at that moment, I knew it was wrong. I mean, I knew I was being assaulted.
Oh man, that video is just devastating.
Yeah.
And as we're going to reveal, the dereliction of duty of literally everyone who was supposed to hold him accountable and stop it from happening to an ever-increasing number of women. And since that account from Evelyn Yang, I believe 8 women have come forward and joined a large number of women who are making claims against the same doctor, but just devastating.
Yeah, I think there are 31 total complaints, and they're trying. Colombia's trying to skate on procedural grounds on the legal side of this. It's so disturbing in the extreme to hear an account like that.
Yeah. Men are creeps, man. Men, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get backlash for that, but I'm gonna say it. Y'all are creeps. It's disgusting. I had a urologist once. You know what those guys are? Anyway, you know who they are. You have to have a woman present with you. That's the one thing. I think this was in New York at the time. It was in New York, and I'm not sure if it's state law, but you have to have a female present if you have a pelvic exam and you're a woman, and the pelvic exam is being done by a man. And that was fine. And then I remember, I think later the guy was like, well, how often are you having sex? Is it 4 times a week? Because your boyfriend's real lucky. I was like, no, dude. So it happens all the time on these on a lot of different levels. And I just wanna say, we can connect the assault that doctors get away with to Medicare for All. Because when you are able to see any doctor you want, you don't have to be beholden to a certain doctor who you are afraid might be assaulting you or is assaulting you because you're afraid you won't get care otherwise. Under Medicare for All, if you're allowed to see a different doctor, you could just up and go to a different obstetrician. That's great, a different gynecologist. Don't worry about who's in your network or who's out of your network. It gives patients much more freedom and not put themselves back into the situation. Obviously, it's on him, but I'm just saying as a patient, you can also have a choice.
Yeah. So, and we can't go through all the details, we had planned to, but effectively there was criminal action against him. He got off incredibly easy, and that's now being pursued too, but also Columbia University, which appears to have not taken seriously a number of just incredibly serious and graphic complaints is also being looked into. But I wanna show you one more section from Evelyn Yang's interview.
I just needed to tell someone, I needed to share it at that moment because it felt so big to me. And I needed that support. And I told him, and he cried. I mean, he wasn't bawling, but there were tears. And he said it's because he remembered when I came home one day ranting about pervy doctors. I said something like, why do they let men be gynecologists? It makes no sense. And he remembered that I had made this comment, and he felt so bad. He felt guilty that he didn't make the connection or ask me more.
And look, with every word, you can see how difficult it is for her to so publicly relate this story, but it is important that she's doing so. She is helping put a spotlight on this guy who got away with dozens and dozens and dozens of crimes, and perhaps now, as a result of what she's doing, again, very bravely, perhaps there will be more justice.
Yeah, and I think offering
to this point been evaded.
Yes, and offering a model for maybe how we can all in our daily lives and the people in our lives, if someone says something like that, we can ask them, Are you basing that on something that happened? Are you okay? You know, and just checking in with people. Because I think that oftentimes we might want to speak about something, like I wanted to tell you all about the urologist, but you know, we can speak about something and it's an offhanded comment or it's a joke or it's a whatever. But it would be great also to be followed up with, and this goes for all kinds of trauma or assault and anything we're going through, right?
No, I just can't. Listening to victims of sexual assault is so disturbing in the extreme, and it's you just get you realize the emotional damage and the ripple effects of that sort of incident, and others that are even worse, you know. But it's chilling. I guess that's the word that comes to mind.
Okay, we are going to take one more break. When we come back, more stories to get to, including, you know, brace yourself. But we have a story about abuse of animals that is quite graphic. So we'll be back after this.